everyone, happy Alopecia Awareness Month from René of Paris. Today we're going to do a live stream dedicated to talking all about alopecia. What is alopecia? What are some good wig options for alopecia? What are some good tips for maybe coming to terms if you're just developing alopecia? All of those things. And of course I'm talking about this from the perspective of someone who has alopecia myself. So of course I am wearing a wig right now. This is the absolutely gorgeous wig from the Amore Collection. This is a human hair piece called Brielle. Really love this wig. This is chocolate parfait is the color. It's beautiful, natural looking brunette with like these gorgeous highlights. Beautiful wig here, but I think for most of this stream I probably will do it without the wig at all because it is for Alopecia Awareness Month. And I think that one of the most important things and why I make content on social media is all about visibility and raising awareness for alopecia. And that's why it's so important to have things like Alopecia Awareness Month. It's just a really great opportunity to start these really important conversations. I find it really interesting when I go about my life and it comes up that I have alopecia to people that I don't know already. I find it very interesting how few people really know what it is. And I just think a lot of times if people see that a woman has a shaved head, they assume that it's something like maybe she's going through chemotherapy, which of course is another common cause of hair loss. But I think not a lot of people really know about alopecia. What is it? What causes it? All of those things. And some of these things, personally, people with alopecia don't even know. Like, of course, it can kind of be a mystery. What causes it? Of course, we know that it's an autoimmune condition, but what exactly does that mean? Technically, it's like your body is attacking your own hair. So basically your body's immune system thinks that your hair is a foreign thing that it has to fight off, and that's what causes alopecia. But I guess it's not fully known what causes your body to think that that's something that it has to fight. And of course I think the cause is slightly different for everybody. So I'm going to go into all of those kind of frequently asked questions as I go through this video. But first thing I want to do is just kind of explain what alopecia is and maybe talk about the multiple types of alopecia. And I think there's three main types, and there's probably more beyond that, but I can also talk mainly from my experience. Of course, I'm not a medical expert. This is all coming from a place of someone who has lived with alopecia, so just keep that in mind as well. If you are someone who's maybe just developing hair loss or something like that, then definitely speak to your doctor for more medical professional advice. This is, again, just coming from the place of someone who's experienced it myself, the things that I do know about it, and also much of this video is going to be talking about what it's like to have alopecia and how I became more confident with it, because I used to be very, very insecure about it to the point where I couldn't even talk about it. No one in my life knew that I had alopecia except for a few select people that I was sure to tell them about. So I used to treat it like a really big secret, and now I'm much more open about it. Of course, I'm here on a live stream talking about it, so I can also talk about my journey going from someone who was very insecure about it to someone who is more open about it. So let's go ahead and rewind and just talk about what alopecia is. Like I said, it's an autoimmune condition, which means your body is attacking itself, so it's attacking your hair follicles, thinking that that is something it has to fight off as part of your immune system. And there's multiple types of alopecia, and personally mine has changed over the years, and I think it's quite common for someone with alopecia to transition between the different types. So you have alopecia areata, which is patches of hair loss. So you can have small patches, like someone can have a full head of hair and just a tiny little patch, and it could possibly stay like that forever. It doesn't necessarily mean that that patch is most certainly going to progress. It could stay like that forever. It could even possibly grow back because, of course, it does change. And so the next type is kind of alopecia totalis, which means you have total hair loss on your head, but you might still have other body hair like eyebrows, eyelashes, or just other like arm hair and things like that. And then there's alopecia universalis, which means you have no body hair whatsoever, which can also cause other complications. Of course, you have things like not having eyelashes and eyebrows. That can be an insecurity for some people as a cosmetic thing. I definitely advise people to love themselves exactly as they are. Nobody has to cover that up. No one has to wear eyebrow product. No one has to wear fake eyelashes to cover that up. You should absolutely just, I think it's best for everyone to kind of work on loving yourself exactly how you are, but then I think there's also nothing wrong with wanting to add things like my eyebrows and stuff. So of course I can also talk about alopecia products for eyebrows and eyelashes because I personally don't have much eyelash and eyebrows. But yes, so that could also cause other medical complications because eyelashes and eyebrows, for example, are there to serve a purpose. They're there to help keep dust out of your eyes and things like that. They're actually there for a reason. So not having eyelashes and eyebrows can also just make it difficult for actual practical reasons as well. So it's interesting to think, of course it is kind of more of a cosmetic thing. If your hair falls out, you don't necessarily have other health issues that you're dealing with. You could be perfectly healthy and have alopecia. I don't have any other associated health concerns with it. It really is for me just kind of like a cosmetic thing in a sense, but that doesn't mean that it's not a big deal because of course when someone first develops alopecia it can be something that is it's just something that's very new, and it can be scary at first. And I think that myself and all of the other alopecia accounts here on Instagram and on other social media platforms, I think a big thing that we all want to do is just show that it doesn't necessarily have to be scary. Of course, it's not to invalidate how you might be feeling if your hair starts to fall out, because of course it can be really scary at first. There's so many questions you might be having, like, is this because of some underlying health concern I have to worry about? Is it ever going to grow back? It can be really intimidating, but the fact is that you don't necessarily, it doesn't have to ruin your life. You can still live a happy, wonderful life. You can still love the way you look and feel confident and be absolutely beautiful with no hair. And personally, for me, I think it's just really fun to change up my look on a regular basis. So sometimes I do like to rock the shaved head look, and that's something that I'm still working on myself. Like I was saying before with my own journey, I used to be so insecure about it that everyone thought that my wig was my hair. I would never change it up. I could not even say the word alopecia without tearing up, which is so wild to look back on now because I have come so far from that point. And the point is that if you're someone who is in that place now, you can also work on that confidence and get to maybe where I am now. But I also do have some things that I personally want to work on. For example, I don't often leave the house without a wig, and for the big reason is I actually do love how I look without a wig, so I feel totally confident with how I look without a wig. The one thing that makes me nervous about leaving the house without a wig is that people kind of stare if you have a shaved head, because it's not that common to see a woman with a shaved head, unfortunately. But I think that's something that's like kind of my personal mission, and I feel like anyone who's visible on social media with alopecia, it kind of probably agrees with this sentiment, is that a big part of what we do here and like want to accomplish is to normalize alopecia, normalize seeing a bald woman on the street so that people aren't staring. So hopefully for younger generations that does get easier. So, okay, I think I don't really know fully where I want to go with this conversation. I have a couple of bullet points that I know I'm going to cover, but of course, as you're watching this live stream, please feel free to leave any questions in the comments as well, because I would love for this to be guided by viewers, kind of be like a Q&A or a frequently asked questions. And of course, if you are watching this video later on, all of our live streams get saved onto our page as well here at René of Paris. You can always comment on that as well. And if there's any questions that I didn't get to address in this video, I can always make future videos on either the René of Paris account or on my personal account, abbyandrew.yt, answering your questions there as well. And I also want to mention, I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, but my DMs on my personal account are also always open if you're someone who is struggling with hair loss and you don't want people to know about it yet and you don't want to ask a question publicly. That's perfectly fine, okay? That's perfectly fine as well. You don't have to comment publicly. You can either DM the René of Paris account or DM my account, abbyandrew.yt, if you have questions about how to choose a wig for alopecia or how to come to terms with having alopecia. And I'm so happy to answer these questions for people because I know it's something that I used to struggle with growing up. When I was growing up with alopecia, when I was like in elementary school, middle school, high school, there wasn't really social media in the way it is now. It's just kind of, it's obviously much more common. It's everywhere now. Everyone has multiple social media platforms, but there weren't a lot of representations of bald women in the world when I was a kid growing up. A lot of the ones that I saw in media were just, you just didn't see it very often. They're usually just like characters and stories or something like that. And now it's just so wonderful to see how there are alopecia models, alopecia dancers, there's alopecia people with alopecia on reality TV. And then of course there's tons of social media accounts where anyone could just look up alopecia and just see these like lots of people thriving with alopecia. And I think that's so important to show in terms of that visibility. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit more about my alopecia story and how I was able to come to terms with my alopecia. Because like I was saying before, I used to be so insecure about it that most people in my life didn't know about it. I wore the same wig every single day. Most people just assumed that was my hair because it looked really realistic, which is great. So props to René of Paris for that, because the wigs are so realistic that if you don't want people to know, they don't have to know, which is really great. So I could put this wig on that I was showing a moment ago just to show how real it is. Again, this is all talking about from my perspective. So in my personal journey, I knew it was something that I wanted to work on to be more open about my alopecia. And now I am at a point where I change my wigs on a regular basis, but not everyone has to have the same goal. If you want to keep it private and you're personal about that, and you don't want people to know about your alopecia, you don't want people to know that you're wearing wigs, that is perfectly all right too and perfectly valid. And it is nice to know that you do have options if you do want to just wear a really realistic looking wig and never have to worry about people questioning it, because I know how much anxiety that used to give me when I was more private about my alopecia. it was really nice, honestly, to have really nice quality wigs that people would look at, like this hairline, for example, that lace front and that monofilament wig cap from the Amore line. Very realistic. So that's really great, because talking about past me, especially when I was in high school, that's the peak of when I was most insecure about my alopecia. Most people just assumed that my wig was my hair, which made it much easier for me to go about my day without people asking me questions. And for me, it was kind of like, if I met someone new and I got really close with them as a friend and I wanted to open up to them about it, then I could tell them if I wanted to. But the thing that weighed on me personally, and why I decided I wanted to be more open about it, is the fact that it felt like a big weight on my shoulders at all times, because it's like I had a short list in my brain at all times of, okay, these friends know I have alopecia, these friends I'm okay with being a wig without a wig around, things like that. These friends don't know about it. I am getting closer with these friends. I would like for them to know. I don't know how to tell them, and it would just create this whole list of anxieties and questions, till it got to a point when, years later when I was in college, it was such a big weight on my shoulders that I decided that I just wanted to open up about it. And the way that I did it is I actually went on Facebook, which was kind of like the big social media platform at the time, and I actually posted a Facebook status, which sounds kind of funny now because I feel like Facebook isn't as common to use anymore. But at the time it was the thing where everybody had Facebook, everyone was checking it frequently. So for the most part, everyone in my life that knew me, if I posted this on a Facebook status, they would see that and they would be able to know from that. Because what I realized for myself was it still gave me a lot of anxiety to even say the word alopecia, that my eyes would tear up if I said the word alopecia. That's how deeply ingrained this stress and this fear was for me when I was younger. So the interactions I would have, even if with someone that I was friends with and I wanted to tell them about my alopecia, it was really hard for me to get this sentence out, which is just, I hope that maybe someone watching this, if you do relate to that, I hope that helps you to feel less alone to hear about that, because it was so, I didn't know anybody else with alopecia, and trying to explain that to anyone probably wouldn't make any sense. But the fact that I used to not be able to even say the word alopecia without getting emotional and tearing up really just goes to show just how insecure I was about it. So my solution to that was, if I posted it on social media instead, I wouldn't actually have to have that one-on-one, face-to-face conversation with every single person I knew and telling them that I had alopecia. But it was just a way for me that I wanted to kind of tell everyone at once in my life, as much as I could, tell as many people at once that I had alopecia, and that way I didn't actually have to have those one-on-one conversations. And to be honest, for me, that made it so much easier, because the next time I saw those people in person, first of all, let me rewind. When I made that status, let me tell you, I was so nervous about it because I was so insecure about my alopecia that I thought that everyone that saw it would think all these negative things about me and think I was weird. Like, it's just things that logically make absolutely no sense, but it just creates all these irrational fears. So I posted that status, closed my laptop, put it away. I was like, I'm not gonna look at that for hours. Finally, hours later, I got the courage to open up Facebook again and check that status, and it was just overwhelming support. Like, everyone I knew personally had been commenting, leaving really supportive, positive things, and it was just really, really opened my eyes to the fact that the world and people around you are not as scary and judgmental as they might seem. So even though if you get in your own head a lot about alopecia, and you might end up being insecure about it because it's just something that you're struggling with in your own mind, but it's really nice to be able to kind of find a way to step outside of that. Let's say, for example, the best thing to do is always to imagine your friend or someone that you know being in the position that you're in. If you had a friend, let's say you had a full head of hair and you had a friend that had alopecia, would you think negative things about them? No, probably not. And if you did, like if someone does think negative things about someone, that's a reflection on them, not on the person. And I feel like it's much easier to kind of understand that when you put it in a reverse situation. It's easier to kind of be hard on yourself, but when you imagine that it's somebody else in your shoes, it kind of helps you to open your eyes and think like, yeah, of course I wouldn't think negative things about something, about that person. And it just starts to become more logical at that point. And so finally at that point, I started to become more open about switching up my wigs on a regular basis, and that really just kind of accelerated my confidence in opening up about alopecia, because of course the one thing that scared me is every time I changed wigs, of course people who saw me every single day would ask me questions about it, but every single time that happened, even if it made me anxious the first couple times, every single time that interaction happened, I became more and more comfortable talking about it, and it was just so amazing to see how quickly I was making progress. So let's say rewind back to my college years. Let's say I always went to class like this every single day, this gorgeous hair. People that didn't know me personally didn't know it was a wig. And then the next day I go to class and I'm wearing something like this. This is the gorgeous wig Angelica from Noriko in creamy blonde. One of my favorite wig colors, by the way. I will say that when I only wore the same exact wig style and color every single day, it was Cody from the Amore Collection in creamy blonde, which is like a short bob in this color. So I have really positive associations with this hair color because it is almost, still to this day, almost what I would see as like my mental image of myself. And I actually graduated high school with a wig very similar to this. I graduated high school in Shiloh from Noriko in creamy blonde, which is quite similar to this, but just a little different. But it's just funny to mention that. That was many years ago now, and I still wear this kind of style and color all the time because I love it so much. But yes, so now imagine in that scenario I was describing, I go to class the next day, nobody knows I wear wigs, and I suddenly have this hair. The kind of interactions that would play out would usually be like, oh my gosh, you dyed your hair, it looks so nice. And I could either choose, in that situation, I could just choose to be like, oh yeah, thanks. And I don't need to elaborate if I don't want to, and if I'm not feeling comfortable in the moment to tell them. But what I kind of started to challenge myself to do is if someone did come to me and say, like, oh, your hair is different, did you just go to the salon or something? Sometimes I would kind of challenge myself to say, oh no, it's actually a wig. Or I could choose how much I want to elaborate. Like, oh yeah, it's a wig, I have alopecia, I wear wigs every day. And I always every interaction that I had like that, I feel like it just got easier and easier to find the best quick thing to say. And sometimes if you don't feel like having that conversation and someone compliments your hair, you don't have to offer up that information if you don't want to. There's a lot of days where I just don't feel like explaining it to people and someone will compliment my hair and I'll just be like, thanks. And that could be the end of it right there. So yes, but I do think that although that interaction kind of made me anxious the first few times I did it, after just a handful of times, it just became so much easier. And that applies, so this is an experience that I had when I was still in classes in college, and that's when I started to kind of open up about it and talking about it. But this applies to no matter what age you are, no matter what your life circumstances, whether you're younger than I was, if you're in high school or earlier, or if you're in the workforce and you're going to your office every day and you want to start changing up your wigs or being open about it, same kind of concept applies. Love this wig, by the way. So gorgeous. Again, that's Angelica in creamy blonde from the Noriko Collection. I have that wig in so many different colors because it's one of my favorite kind of long glam styles. Now I want to talk about another thing that I did that kind of helped me to get more comfortable changing up my wigs and talking about alopecia. Two things actually that come to mind. For one thing, starting my social media accounts on YouTube and Instagram and talking about it on social media helped me to be able to formulate words around a topic that used to scare me so much in the privacy of my own room to a camera. And then I could edit it if I wanted to. So honestly, just being able to talk to a camera to get your thoughts out about whatever it is you're struggling with, whether it's something else or it is alopecia, being able to just voice the words and get them out into the open, even if nobody hears it, that really did help me to kind of formulate my thoughts. And then also being able to post on social media helps in a number of ways. It helps connect me with other people going through the same thing, which I had never really been connected with others with alopecia before. And it also showed me that me posting content on social media, not only was it helping me to get comfortable talking about it, I was able to see that it was helping other people struggling with the same thing. And again, that was so eye-opening as well, because it helped me to step outside of myself and see that, yeah, this is something that I struggle with, but it's also something that I can help other people with as well. So, and then the other thing that kind of helped me to get more comfortable talking about wigs and switching them up was cosplay and costumes and like Halloween costumes. And it's funny because of course this is September 1st for Alopecia Awareness Month. A month from now we're going to start getting into all the costume looks. I love posting costume looks with all my different wigs as well. But it's just something that I always look back on as something that really helped me to get used to switching up wigs, because when I was still in college, it was right around Halloween time when I first started to switch up my wigs, and it was so fun to be able to take that time, that weekend, to wear drastically different wigs. Let's say I just wore like a pink wig or a purple wig or something, and I was out for Halloween. Nobody's gonna question that, so it's just such a nice way to be able to wear a different wig, and if someone asks you about it, you can just let them think that it's for Halloween if you don't feel like talking about it. So I feel like the way I looked at it was almost like I always wanted to challenge myself to open up about it and talk about it more. But of course you're gonna have days and moments where you just don't feel like pushing yourself past what feels uncomfortable for you. And it's perfectly okay to kind of not force yourself, not push yourself too hard. Be patient with yourself. So with things like for costumes, if I wore a wig for that and I didn't want to tell somebody, oh, I'm wearing a wig because I have alopecia, they don't need to know that. They just assume that I'm wearing a wig because it's for the costume. So I think that's just something to think about. Thinking about what your goals are, again, like I was saying before, if you have alopecia and you want to be private about it and you don't want to switch up your wigs all the time, you don't want people to know, that's perfectly valid. Some people just want to be more private about their lives than others. And then for me, I personally knew that my long-term goal was to be open about it because I also love fashion and changing up my looks all the time. So even when I was at my most insecure with alopecia, I always thought it would be so cool if I could finally get to a place where I was comfortable switching it up all the time. So I knew for years that I wanted that to be the case when I was able to get to that point eventually. So when I was finally able to get to that point, it was so exciting to be able to change up my wigs on such a regular basis and to almost wear wigs like an accessory, like wear a purple wig when I want to have a purple outfit, or certain days I want to be brunette, certain days I want to be blonde. And it was just so much fun to treat it like an accessory and no longer see it as something that I needed to use to kind of hide behind and keep it as this big, dark secret. So yeah, being able to kind of switch up wigs for costumes was almost like training wheels for switching up wigs in my day-to-day life. So I also want to talk about wigs that are best for alopecia as well, because there's so many different wig features between wig caps, if you want a machine tied cap, a monofilament cap, lace front, lace part, there's so many different things to consider if you are someone who's maybe just developing hair loss and you want to find a good everyday wig. There's also hair fiber, there's synthetic fibers, there's human hair wigs, what's best? And ultimately, all of these things come down to your personal preference. So I guess the first thing you want to kind of think about is what kind of style do you want to go for? Do you want to find something that looks a lot like what your own hair looked like before it fell out? Do you want to be someone that switches it up all the time? I feel like that's a really good starter question to ask because I'll start with hair fibers. So you have synthetic and human hair. This one is a human hair wig here. This one is synthetic. We have videos dedicated all about different hair fibers and the benefits of all of them. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but just to give a really brief overview. Human hair wigs, there is a smaller selection of colors, so you mostly just get a handful of really natural color options to choose from, but the ones that you get are so beautiful and natural looking. Whereas synthetic wigs, you get a lot of the more fun colors, so if you like to change up your wigs a lot, that might be something if you want to look at more fun color options. Most of those will be synthetic. Human hair wigs also last a bit longer, however, than synthetic wigs, which is kind of nice. So if you are someone that wants to stick with one style and you know what you want, getting a human hair wig might be a really great option. So this is, again, the wig that I started this video with. This is Brielle. Looks so natural. Another perk to having a human hair wig is that you can style it with heating tools. So if you wanted to, you could curl this, you could straighten it, you could change the way it looks. You always want to be careful using heating tools. Don't overdo it. You don't want to damage the hair, but you do have a lot more styling flexibility with human hair versus synthetic, which is really nice. I recommend using a heat protectant spray on your human hair wigs as well. I kind of avoid using heat on them too often, except for every once in a while. But it is really nice to just have a natural looking go-to wig that's just so easy. On the flip side of that, I actually personally wear synthetic wigs much more often. Part of the reason for that is because synthetic wigs are just so easy. Something really amazing about synthetic wigs is that they hold their style. So let's say you have, I wish I had a curly wig next to me right now, but I can show it with this wig here. Hi Kevin, thanks so much for stopping in. I appreciate you. So here, going back to talking about a synthetic wig style, for example, this style has these really gorgeous kind of like waves in the hair. It's not like a fully wavy wig, but you just have a little bit of a nice curl to it, very subtle, very gorgeous. It just really looks really professionally done. And what's amazing about synthetic wigs is that they hold that style, which is just so convenient for me. I'm not someone that likes to spend a lot of time doing my hair, so I like to be able to just throw on a synthetic wig like this and it's already styled, and once you wash a synthetic wig, it will also dry back in that style. So it is just like so easy, so convenient. Whereas human hair wigs are beautiful in so many ways. I love them so much, but you do have to style them and upkeep them a little bit more, just like you would with your own hair. So me personally, all of my hair fell out when I was 2, so I didn't really have many years styling my hair with heating tools. I'm actually learning more about that in the last couple years because only more recently have I been kind of learning how to style my human hair wigs, but I'd never really had a full head of hair in my adult life or even in most of my life at all. So that's part of the reason why I actually prefer synthetic wigs, because it's just so easy to throw them on. You don't even have to have any hairstyling skills, and it's just so easy. Whereas human hair wigs, I do feel like you have to just worry about concerns that you would have to with the own hair that grows out of your head. So if you're someone who's maybe like, you've had hair for most of your life and it's just starting to fall out, you might actually prefer to have human hair wigs because that's already what you're used to styling. Whereas for me, I never really styled the own hair on my head because it fell out when I was so young. So human hair, you kind of just get the same experience as having your own hair, which is kind of nice as well. So just being able to curl this, style it, it's just really nice. I do also want to show you the cap constructions. Now, if you are looking for a wig specifically for hair loss and for alopecia, I highly recommend the René of Paris Amore collection that we have. If you go to reneofparis.com, go to our brands and go to Amore, that is a collection intended specifically for people with hair loss, so for alopecia and for other hair loss concerns. And it just has features that make it look top tier realistic, so it looks very realistic on the top of the scalp, top tier comfort, very comfortable. All of these wigs I wear directly on my shaved head, so this applies to all of the different lines within René of Paris, but if you do have a sensitive scalp, the Amore collection has things that just make them all extra comfortable, so I do highly recommend that. And yeah, and there's also just so many beautiful styles and colors in that collection as well, so there really is something for everyone. It really is amazing to see how many wig options are available these days, where any hairstyle that you can go into a hair salon and ask them to do for you, you can find a wig that looks exactly like that. Between all the different colors, all the different styles, it's actually quite amazing. And I know for many of us in this wig community here, every time a new style gets released, we're all so excited to just like add it to our collection. It's so fun to try the new styles. And I just want to mention that that's something that I have come to absolutely love about having alopecia. I love being a chameleon. I love changing up my look. I love trying all the different hairstyles. I love adding a new wig to my collection. It's like this really joyful thing that I think a lot of people don't get to experience, and we can almost kind of see it like that. Like, we might not have hair in our heads, but we get to play with wigs, which can be so fun. Of course, people with hair can also play around with wigs, but it's kind of, I don't know, I think it actually is becoming more and more common to wear them as a fashion accessory, but especially when I was younger, it wasn't as common. But it was just something that I've always got to play with wigs and have fun with them, and it's just an amazing part of fashion that I get to experience. So going into wig caps, the Amore collection also has a lot of these features that are just very comfortable on your scalp. Again, this is one of the human hair wigs. This cap is slightly different from some of the other wig caps in the Amore collection. I'll show you an example of that in a moment. But Brielle, it just has really nice monofilament, hand-tied in the back, so it just looks really natural all around. You can change the part any which way and it looks super natural. You have these kind of silicone strips, like this kind of just helps ever so slightly grip to your head a bit more, all of these silicone strips here. They're not so much intense that if you do have hair of your own, it's gonna like pull on it or anything, but it just gives you a little bit more extra grip so that it doesn't slide easily. You also have a lace front, and that's what gives you the natural looking hairline here. So if you pull the hair back, it just looks like it's growing right out of your scalp. And of course, all of our wigs are also adjustable, so it's really nice to be able to kind of change those adjustments to make sure it fits you properly. If a wig fits you properly, it shouldn't be sliding around. There shouldn't feel like there's any bagginess in the cap or anything like that. But again, our wigs are very adjustable, so they should fit most head sizes. But just to show you what some of those features look like once it's on my head, here's what that lace front does. Let me just make sure I didn't. So here's the monofilament. The monofilament refers to the part of the cap that's here, and that's what allows you to change the part in any direction and still have it look like it's growing out of your scalp. So as you can see, that is just amazing. It really just looks like it is attached to my head and growing out of my head. And then of course you have the lace front. So the lace front kind of goes from here to here, and then it turns into the monofilament cap. The only difference is that the lace front goes all the way to the edge of the wig cap. So if you kind of pull the hair back in the front, it just blends really nicely with your hairline. So it just goes straight from the wig to your forehead as opposed to having a more blunt edge. Now, lace front isn't like 100% mandatory with wigs for me. Let me show you an example of a wig that doesn't have a lace front, and personally I don't think it needs one at all. So this is actually an older wig style, older in my collection, like the actual piece is older, but this is one that I wear almost every day. But this is a wig from the Amore Collection. This is Tatum. This is pretty much the classic Amore cap. Some of them have slight variations, but this is the kind of cap you'll find in much of the Amore Collection. You have double monofilament, similar to the other cap. That double layer of monofilament just really gives you that really nice smooth fabric that just is really comfortable on a shaved head. So I never wear wig caps there. You have that same silicone strip to give you that extra grip. No lace front here, and I'll explain why that's okay in this case. You also have the open wefting, so it's very breathable, and again, those adjustable straps at the nape of the neck. And just to show you what that looks like on. Lace front is really good for styles that you're going to want to kind of push back and style like you're doing that. But this wig, as you can see, this is Tatum from Amore. This wig has bangs. And so, generally with the bangs, I'm either going to wear them straight forward like that, or I'm going to wear them slightly to the side. But they're always going to be covering the hairline. And that just makes it so easy. You don't even have to worry about the hairline looking realistic because it's covered anyway. And honestly, what I would say as part of the things that I like to have in a day-to-day go-to wig for my alopecia, I like to have a short wig, one that's kind of straight in style because straight wigs are just very, very easy to manage. And personally, I like to have a monofilament or double monofilament wig for my day-to-day wigs. And lace front isn't necessarily mandatory. Lace front really just depends on the style type. If it's a style that I'm going to want to be pushing back, then I think lace front is nice to have. But a style like this that has bangs, I don't need that lace front because I'm not going to be pushing the hair back. And if anything, one thing about lace front is that it can be a little bit delicate, so when I am styling my wigs with lace front, I'm always a little extra careful that I'm not actually accidentally going to tear that lace front. It's not like it's so fragile that it's going to break easily or anything, but it does just require a little bit more extra care when handling. So having a wig with no lace front and it's covered anyway, you still get that realistic looking front area because it's covered, and you don't have to worry about the delicate lace front or anything like that. So it's kind of just like the absolute top tier in terms of easiest thing to deal with is just monofilament cap, no lace front, short, straight style. I just find that so easy. Okay, so anyway, that kind of is all the things that I wanted to talk about in this video. Just a quick overview of my alopecia backstory, how I came to terms with my alopecia, general fact, Q&A about alopecia, and also just my favorite types of wig styles to look for alopecia. Again, if you're just joining this video, all of our live streams get saved to our page, René of Paris, that you can go back and rewatch them from the beginning if there's anything that you missed or anything that you want to rewatch as well. So definitely go back and watch that later if you want to. Don't forget to follow René of Paris if you're not already. And check out reneofparis.com to learn more about all the styles that I talked about in this video. And if you want to follow me on my Instagram account, my name is Abby Andrew, so you can follow me at abbyandrew.yt for more wig videos, cosplay videos, and fun things like that. So if you have any other questions that come up, again, feel free to comment any questions like that on this video once it gets posted. Feel free to send them to the René of Paris account or send them to me personally on my account, especially because it is Alopecia Awareness Month. I'm sure both René of Paris and myself are going to be posting lots of alopecia adjacent or alopecia related content. So I would love to take any questions if anyone has questions to ask about that. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a wonderful long weekend, I guess if you're in the US. And thanks so much for hanging out today. And I will talk to you very soon. Bye everyone.